Hello, friends, and welcome to another podcast episode of Nourishing Life with me, Salima Beliou. Your invitation to nourishment this week is a short but sweet reflective post on sisterhood and a potent women's group gathering. Recommendations, apps, and credited specialists to educate, track, inform, and nourish your journey. A sprinkling of radical self-care prompts and what helps me. The unease of using I, radical self-care and confidence in menopause. I had actually recorded this podcast yesterday, but unfortunately we had a massive internet outage in my area, hence the re-record of this post this week, and I hope that it is equally as good as the first one that I did. Sitting in a contemplative and generous and precious space this week with a group of like-minded sisters, one thing came to the forefront: the importance of sisterhood, being heard, and the unease that we all sometimes experience from being the caregiver. As I sat and listened, really listened to the other women's life stories, the challenges and motivations to move both physically and mentally forward, I began to feel a deeper resonance with them. A sisterhood of sorts. Strangers united in a common cause. How to flourish, how to give, how to express, and how to communicate what we experience and what we need in this transitional time. After my turn to speak, I was guided back to the importance of practicing a deeper sense of awareness, care, love, and respect for myself by using I when I spoke to the group about my journey, values, and motivations. I found this observation and comment from my mentor and host especially potent and nourishing, especially after surfing the wave of my partner's journey with depression and intermittently losing myself in that cycle. I'm sure that the concept of sisterhood, friendships, and relationships became a little distorted and lost in the void of the pandemic. I'm not sure if you noticed it in your circle, but in mine, all of my relationships changed, including the one with myself. Women by nature are natural born caregivers. We can't help it. It's embedded in our DNA and reinforced by societal norms and conditioning. However, during the perimenopause and menopause cycle, instead of giving all the time, we need to make time for ourselves to learn what we need to change and do to look after and stay close to ourselves. Something of a challenge for me the past 2 years. Like Halle Berry recently said in an interview, I thought I could just skip menopause. It won't happen to me. Whilst it's true, some women do sail through menopause without experiencing any of the symptoms, they are in the minority and they are still at risk of certain symptoms and diseases. With healthcare professionals generally lacking specific menopausal training, as Dr. Mary Clay Haven mentions in the USA, unfortunately, it is exactly the same here in the UK. Not enough trained professionals to answer to women's needs and concerns. Therefore, advocating for yourself becomes paramount to ensure mental, emotional, and structural stability. Educating yourself first and foremost is the key. The theme of sisterhood continued into my week, this time surfacing as I sat in my hairdresser's chair. Being asked how I was, although there was only myself and another lady present, I found myself inadvertently blurting out, "Oh, I feel so much better since I started HRT." With that comment, the conversational space opened up, giving us a common ground to share our experiences and learn from each other. What a beautiful thing. Menopause being the common thread that would unite us, strangers in passing. As I sat in my chair, I shared some of the apps and official research that I had been reading for clarity in a world full of disinformation on certain topics around menopausal health. During our other conversation, the other client said something that really struck me. we now have the control to decide how we go through these years, even if it means advocating for yourself. Wow, so true. The women of today are incredibly lucky. We have some amazing individuals advocating for women's health to be at the top of the agenda rather than at the bottom. Specialists in their respective fields, they often share their frustration as well as ours with the lack of qualified professionals to help women during these years. Many amazing podcasts and Substacks, including some of the following that I've listed below, can give us the necessary information needed to make an informed decision about how we want to proceed with our life in the second act. This is radical self-care. This is taking our power back. Reclaiming our power ultimately affects our confidence, something too that is easily lost due to the changes in our brains during these various transitions in the menopausal journey. Here are my go-to list. These are just some of the amazing women, if you don't know them already, leading the cause for better health at every stage of the menopause journey. Dr. Lisa Mosconi, neuroscientist who focuses her work on women's health in their brain and the relation to Alzheimer's. Dr. Mary Claver, OBGYN and Menopause Society certified practitioner and best-selling author, focusing on all aspects of women's health and menopause. Dr. Jen Gunter, OBGYN, author of the Vagina Bible and the Menopause Manifesto. Dr. Kelly Casper, urologist empowering women in midlife. Endocrinologist Dr. Salis Whalen, and Dr. Vonna Wright, who's an orthopedic surgeon looking at bones and osteoporosis and density and things that we can do to protect ourselves. The other thing that I would mention here is something that I've become more aware of lately since I've been going through this journey is when I see my older female eye patients when I'm out on the road. And I would say maybe like 75 through to 90, very rarely do you see a lady who's completely mobile, and so many falls and fractures. And it is that generation, we're talking about the generation before us, and even maybe before that, if you're listening to this and you're in your 30s, then for you it would be two generations before. But for me, I think of it as my mum's generation, although she was very lucky. And weirdly enough, I was thinking about this the other day. Somebody else I was having a conversation with, we were talking about the start of HRT, using HRT is normally reflective of when you start your periods. If you start your periods later, you probably start HRT later, or you start the menopause later, should I say. And I realized that I'm probably more or less the same age as my mum was when she started it. Now, unfortunately, she did get Alzheimer's. She did contract or did pick up symptoms of dementia, and Alzheimer's is what killed her, unfortunately. But when she started HRT, that was 40 years ago. So I would like to think that in the 40 years that have passed, that they have modified and perfected this HRT. Yes, obviously, taking HRT is more preventative. It's not going to necessarily stop you from getting heart issues, fractures, bone fractures, Alzheimer's, dementia, and other things. But it is preventative medicine. And I have to say that I have personally tried a lot of herbal supplements. And I would say initially in the early stages of perimenopause, I was using a brand called Equi, which I found to be really good. But these supplements, as you go through different stages in perimenopause and as you go through different stages in menopause, and perhaps postmenopause, but I'm not there yet, then you start to see how your body needs certain things more. Um, and you might be lucky and not experience the 40 odd symptoms, or 50, I think it is, that's associated with menopause. But you might experience a fair few for certain periods, and that's basically what I found. However, the incident and experience and issues that I had with my mouth recently was really, if you can hear that, that's my goose in the background, by the way, because I'm coming to you from my floating home on the water. As I was saying, I have to share this because I think it's also important, and I will do another post on this, is teeth in the menopause, and how our gums and our teeth are affected by our hormone secretion levels. And it's really scary. I'm like, I have nightmares about my teeth falling out because I've had to have one tooth removed. And the dentist, I have a very good dentist, lucky enough for me, that also agrees that there needs to be more consideration for women going into dentistry, people going into dentistry to have work done, and that the dentist needs to bear in mind their age, especially women, because women on average lose more teeth than men. And during menopause, more women lose teeth. And what I found was that I had suddenly had this burning mouth sensation out of the blue, like the roof of my mouth constantly felt like it was on fire. When I looked it up, it was a symptom of perimenopause. I started taking the progesterone, and within 24 hours, it had completely eradicated itself. It completely gone. So the progesterone can also help with dry mouth as well. It's something that I really had quite badly over the last few months. So I'm sharing this information with you in case you are suffering. And I think, this whole idea of sisterhood and talking about whether you're famous or not famous, it doesn't matter. But generally, not being afraid of opening up the conversation with people that you know, and even, like I say, with strangers, which is what happened to me when I was sitting in my hairdresser's chair. So, the other thing that is really important that I've always done with my Apple Health app is to track my cycle as well. And this is become really important as I've gone through the different stages. So when I go to the doctor, I can show them like, oh, I've had these symptoms. This is how many days since my last cycle. And they have all the information there, because obviously these people don't have a lot of time to sit and discuss these things. So you have to be like, get all your ducks in a row, be very specific about what you're concerned about and what you want to talk about, and have it in bullet points. I always do that when I go to see my doctor. And also, some of these apps now, you can, put reminders in for me taking my HRT as well as vitamin supplements. So also, it is worth remembering, going back to what I was talking about a few moments ago, that when we look at menopause supplements, there are some that are compatible with HRT, but you really have to do your research. And if you're not sure, contact the company direct to ask. One company that does make an HRT multivitamin complement to go with HRT is a company called Health and Her. They also have a app, which I've put in the post. So if you're listening to this and you're not reading, do go across to the post, because I've put the links in there. And the other app that's my real favorite that I've begun to use is Balance with Dr. Louise Newson. Here you can log everything from mental, emotional, physical, vitamins, HRT, whatever you're doing. There's a list of symptoms. There is you have access to the latest research on testosterone, which is another thing that Dr. Dr. Kelly Casper is talking about a lot. And in the UK, of course, you can't get it on the NHS. You can only get it privately. So that is another conversation I will be having with my doctor on Thursday. Why is that? Why in the UK are so many women suffering and being denied certain medications that can help them improve the quality of their lives? And one has to ask that if it was a man, if it was from a male perspective, surely that would not be the case. Surely it would be available on the NHS and not classed as private. The other thing that I would say is essential oils can also help. One of my favorites that gives me clarity and generally just uplifts me and makes me feel better is quite simply peppermint. Obviously, also really good for your stomach as well. Mint and peppermint, Moroccan mint is my favorite. Elena Brower, my mentor, she has a free guide, which I think I will include in the post as well before I post it, so you can access that as well. So let's move on to some radical self-care prompts. And these were really thought of from my reflection on the cohort session that I had with my group last week. And they are the following. So grab your notebook and your pen. Where, what, and how is your energy being directed? Number 1. Number 2, what are you releasing? Number 3, how are you caring for yourself? Number 4, how are you feeling, honestly? Number 5, what is your vision, intentions for your life, health, relationships, pre, during, and post menopause? Obviously, if you're just in the pre or during, just do it for that stage that you're in. What do you need to take more notice of? Which sort of ties into the next one. What is your body telling and showing you? What does support look like for you? And how are you communicating what you need from yourself and others? Obviously, it goes without saying that everyone is different. What works for me doesn't mean that it will work for you. I know I state the obvious, but I have to mention it. But there are always certain things to consider. These are due to your family and self-health history. Therefore, do your research, speak to a licensed professional to arm yourself with trusted knowledge, and then come to an informed decision on how you want to move forward. Advocate for yourself. So as you go through this journey, instead of dreading it and getting depressed about it, you can then start to make peace with it and start to enjoy the journey, the change. I hope you found this piece helpful. If you feel that you know someone that might benefit, please gladly share it. Thank you for reading, listening, and supporting Nourishing Life with Salema. At the moment, all of my posts are free. If you would like to make a one-off donation, in the About page, you can buy me a coffee or make a founding member donation. Until next time, take care.